On the quiet suburban stretch of Springwood, Ohio, there was a place the locals spoke of in hushed tones. Elm Street. To the unknowing eye, it looked like any other peaceful American neighborhood in the 1980s. White picket fences, fresh-cut lawns, houses painted in warm colors, with bicycles resting lazily on driveways. To the children, it was a playground. To the parents, a safe sanctuary. But behind those curtains of suburban normalcy, something darker stirred. Legends say every town has its own ghost story, its own monster whispered about in the dead of night. On Elm Street, that monster had a name, Freddy Krueger. He was said to haunt dreams, hunting the innocent while they slept. And those unlucky enough to meet him inside their nightmares often never woke up. This is the story of that nightmare, a story of friendship, fear, and the thin line between dreams and reality. Scene 1. Tina's nightmare. It began, as horrors often do, with a dream. Tina Gray was 16, a blonde-haired girl with a restless spirit. That night she tossed and turned beneath her bedsheets, sweat glistening on her forehead. In her dream, she found herself wandering through a labyrinth of rusted boiler rooms, walls dripping with steam, shadows dancing against cracked iron. The air was thick with the metallic stench of burning oil. She wasn't alone. From the darkness came the scrape, slow, deliberate, screech, like metal claws dragging along a pipe. The sound echoed endlessly. "Who's there?" Tina whispered, voice trembling. Out of the shadows stepped a figure. A man dressed in a tattered green and red striped sweater, worn brown fedora perched on his scarred head. His face was grotesque, melted, burned beyond recognition, as though fire had kissed him and never let go. And on his right hand, 4 gleaming blades welded into a glove. He grinned. Tina ran, her footsteps splashing against puddles of black water. Steam hissed, pipes rattled, the sound of claws scraping followed her. She stumbled into a corner, chest heaving. Then he appeared again, in front of her this time. "Impossibly fast. You can't escape me," he hissed. His voice like rusted nails dragging across her bones. She screamed. And just as his claws slashed through the air, Tina woke. Her heart pounded. She sat upright in her bed, clutching her chest. The sheets were torn as if something had ripped them open. On her nightgown, 4 long slashes stretched across the fabric. It was just a dream, wasn't it? Scene 2. Friends at the door. The next morning, Tina tried to shake off the unease. She invited her friends over, hoping their company would chase away the lingering dread. Nancy Thompson, Tina's best friend, was the kind of girl who carried quiet strength in her eyes. She had chestnut hair and a sharp mind that rarely rested. Alongside her was Glenn, Nancy's boyfriend, a charming boy with easy confidence, played off with casual jokes. And then there was Rod Lane, Tina's rebellious boyfriend, whose leather jacket and rough edges hid a complicated heart. They gathered in Tina's living room, talking about dreams, movies, and school. But Tina couldn't keep silent for long. "I had the worst nightmare last night," she admitted. "It felt real." "Too real," Nancy frowned. "What was it about?" Tina hesitated, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee mug. A man, burned face, a glove with knives for fingers. Nancy's eyes widened. "You too?" Tina froze. "Wait, you've seen him?" Glenn raised an eyebrow. "Come on, guys, don't freak each other out. It's just a nightmare." But Nancy wasn't smiling. "No, I really did. Same man, same claws." The room grew quiet. Night had fallen by the time they decided to stay together at Tina's house. Safety in numbers, they thought. If it was just a dream, then there was nothing to fear. But if it was more than that, maybe they could protect each other. Scene 3. The death of Tina. That night, the house grew silent under the cloak of darkness. Tina drifted into uneasy sleep again. In her dream, she walked through the alley behind her house. The moon shone pale and cold. Gravel crunched under her bare feet. From the shadows, he emerged again. Freddy. His blades glinted under the moonlight as he dragged them across the alley wall, leaving sparks in their wake. "No. Please," Tina whimpered, backing away. Freddy laughed, the sound chilling and cruel. "This is just the beginning." She turned to run, but he was already there, lunging at her. The blades sliced through the air. She screamed, the sound echoing across both dream and reality. In the real world, Nancy and Glenn woke with a start to the sound of Tina's screams from the bedroom. They rushed to her door, but it was locked. Inside, Tina writhed violently, tossed around as though invisible hands lifted and threw her. Blood sprayed across the walls. Her body dragged across the ceiling, claw marks appearing where nothing visible touched her. Nancy screamed from the other side of the door. Glenn pounded with his fists, and then, with a final shriek, Tina's body crashed onto the bed, lifeless, blood pooling around her. The screaming stopped. When they finally broke in, it was too late. Tina was gone. Rod, who had been with Tina that night, stood shocked, hands shaking. I didn't touch her, he stammered. But the blood on his shirt told a different story. The police thought otherwise. Scene 4. Rod in chains by morning. Rod was in custody. To the police, it was a simple case. A violent boyfriend, a tragic fight. They dismissed the children's talk of dreams and shadows. Nancy knew better. She had seen the slashes, the impossible way Tina had been thrown across the room. No human could do that. No human could carve wounds in midair. At school, exhaustion weighed heavy on Nancy's shoulders. Every time her eyes closed, she saw him. Freddie. Standing at the edge of her dreams, watching, waiting. She fell asleep in class for just a moment. The chalkboard blurred. The whispers of her classmates faded. And suddenly she was walking down a dark hallway. The walls oozed with blood. Lockers slammed shut by themselves. Then, Freddie. He lunged, his glove slashing the air. She screamed and bolted down the hallway, crashing through a door into the boiler room. Steam hissed, metal groaned, and the scrape of claws followed. Nancy forced herself awake, gasping for breath, eyes wide with terror. She had pulled herself out of the dream. But the burns on her arm told her it wasn't just imagination. That night, she told Glenn, "It's him. He killed Tina. He's coming for all of us." Glenn shook his head, trying to comfort her. "Nightmares can't hurt you, Nancy." But her eyes said otherwise. Scene 5. Freddie claims. Rod languished in his jail cell, pacing nervously. He hadn't slept since the night Tina died, but exhaustion was relentless. His eyelids grew heavy. His body sagged, and then the dream began. The cell darkened. The shadows stretched long and alive. From the corner, Freddie emerged, grinning. No, please," Rod whispered, backing against the wall. Freddie raised his claw, dragging it along the bars with a screeching laugh. "You're next." In the real world, Rod's bedsheet snaked around his neck like a serpent. He thrashed, gasping for air, but no one came. His body lifted, strangled by the invisible force, until finally it fell limp. When the guards arrived, they found him hanging in his cell. Another suicide, they called it. But Nancy knew. She knew who had truly killed him. Scene 6. Nancy's resolve. 2 friends gone. Tina torn apart. Rod strangled in his sleep. Nancy was next. She felt it in her bones. Her mother, Marge, dismissed it as stress. She handed Nancy sleeping pills, insisted she needed rest. But Nancy had no intention of resting. She researched, dug into the past, followed the whispers of the town's secret. And slowly, a story unraveled. There had been a man, a murderer of children. He preyed on the young, hunted them for years until the parents of Springwood had taken matters into their own hands. They had cornered him in an old boiler house and burned him alive. His name was Freddy Krueger, but death hadn't ended him. It had only made him stronger. Now he lived in dreams, feeding off fear, taking vengeance on the children of those who had killed him. Nancy realized the truth. "We're all targets," she whispered. "Every last one of us." And she knew. The only way to survive was to fight back.